Conklin and Company with 13 ABC Action News anchor Lee Conklin. First with what's happening behind the headlines. And Take 3, our panel of political analysts.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Conklin and Company. Coming up on the program this Sunday morning, let's talk a little March Madness. UT Athletic Director Mike O'Brien will join us, talk about the season that was for the UT men and the UT women. Also, the women, some of the best college basketball players in the country in town for the first round of the NCAA tournament this weekend and into tomorrow at Savage Arena. Mike O'Brien will join us a little bit later. Also, Take 3 today, the city budget. We have some raises for some union employees, and also looks like the pools have been spared, at least for now. That and more on the way in Take 3. And Bob Vasquez says, hey, I want to run for city council in the seat vacated by the now mayor, D. Michael Collins. So Tom Troy, London Mitchell on those topics and much more a little bit later on. But first, combating racism in Toledo. An event, a special event coming up in less than 2 weeks here in town. And here to talk about that is Pastor Robert Culp from the First Church of God. And thanks very much for coming in. We appreciate it, and part of the Toledo Community Coalition.
Correct.
Pastor Culp. So combating racism, boy, that's a broad topic. What will make this particular event in Toledo different?
This is the third of the forums. This one specifically is dealing with the whole area of poverty, generational poverty, and how it impacts race. And
you have a special guest, really a highly respected and at times somewhat controversial guest coming in here. We're talking about Dr. Ruby Payne, and she's had so many works. But I think the one big one here is the book that you brought here, and it's called A Framework for Understanding Poverty by Dr. Ruby Payne. Tell us, one, how you got her to come here for this particular forum, and what this book is all about.
Good. Wasn't easy to get her, but through the persuasion of some other Toledoans, she realized the necessity and the value of being our guest and what we're really attempting to do. Racism and poverty are like twins. They often go hand in hand. And there's no better expert in the field whose writings and whose presentations, whose workshops have set the standard of both understanding and addressing the issues of poverty.
You've brought business, education, community leaders together for this particular forum. You say there's no better expert to be the keynote speaker. Why no better than Dr. Payne?
She has, first of all, through her experience, she has been an educator, and in both poverty areas, middle class areas, and among the wealthy. In fact, one of her contentions is that poverty is much more than a financial situation. The average individual sees poverty as a lack of money, but what poverty really is, according to her definition, is a lack of resources that will enable you to cope with situations of life. In other words, a person who simply lacks money, you can give them money, but they will probably still remain poor because the other resources that are necessary beside financial resources to make it, the values of the poor are different from the values of the middle class. Poor persons see money as something to be spent or used. Middle class persons see money as something to be managed. Wealthy persons see money as something to be invested. Their values are so different. And she does an excellent job of helping people to understand so often the reason many people remain in poverty is not because they don't have a job, it's because they don't have the resources that are necessary. They don't have
resources being what? Tools for education?
More than that. For example, you give a poor person a job and they do not understand or realize that you have to let go of your former style of behavior even. In a poor environment, loudness is there. Clothing is different. A poor person comes for a job and their pants are sagging and they're chewing gum and they don't even have the right language, which impacts them greatly. They don't.
But does that go to stereotyping though? When you
well, not really, because it's so typical of the environment and the culture that such persons come out of. It's not a matter of decisions a person makes that I'm going to be this way. It's the values that they have always had as a part of their life. And if you were talking about something that was isolated here or there, but you're talking about a major segment of the population. America has a larger percentage of poor people than any industrialized Western nation in the world. And there are reasons for it. And getting out of poverty is not simply a matter of giving a person financial resources. You have to give them mental resources, spiritual resources. You have to give them emotional resources.
And that may come, the spiritual comes from the church, but much of this, so much of this, Pastor, comes from the home.
Yes.
Right? So easier said than done to get that direction from home.
Much so, and that's why it takes not only parents, it takes educators, it takes business people, it takes a whole community to be able to wrestle and deal with the issue of poverty.
All right, let's talk about this particular event. It's coming up April 3rd, Central Catholic High School, 2-hour event. So Dr. Payne has 2 hours in which to take everybody who will be there, the business community, community leaders, government leaders, and educators. So give us an example of what will happen when Dr. Payne will come in.
First off, Dr. Payne's going to spend the day with us.
Okay.
First thing in the morning, we've invited the CEOs of the most prominent companies in the Toledo area. She's going to do a workshop with them. Immediately following that will be another workshop for social workers, educators, these kinds of persons, where she will share with them. But finally, then to wrap it up for the whole community will be the meeting at 7 o'clock at night. It's impossible to transform a community
in 2 hours.
In 2 hours, right?
We get it.
But what she will do is she will whet our appetite for wrestling and dealing with it. She's bringing with her copies of her book. We hope we're establishing, people will sign up that night to be a part of what we call a Dialogue to Change group. And you'll meet with 10, 12 other community persons on a 7-week basis. And you will discuss the book or several other options beside her book that we will have that individuals will be able to deal with, to follow it up. This is not intended to be an event in and of itself, but obviously will be something that will have an ongoing impact that we believe will change this community.
Yeah, certainly can't do it in 2 hours, 1 day, 1 year. It is an ongoing process. A framework for understanding poverty, the book by Ruby Payne, and combating racism. Once again, the event is April 3rd, the public event from 7 to 9 over at Central Catholic High School. And Pastor Robert Culp, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for
best
the
Best of
opportunity.
luck with that particular day and moving forward, most importantly.
Thank you very
much.
Okay.
We're going to talk a little March Madness here on Conklin & Company when we come back. Mike O'Brien, Athletic Director at the University of Toledo, right after this.